Wave instead of everybody unmuting. Good morning, everyone. You can hear me, right? Okay. It's my great pleasure to turn the Dharma talk this morning over to Melissa Kazumi Mueller. And Kazumi, what does your Dharma name mean?
It means beautiful peace.
Beautiful peace. So, yeah, anybody up for some beautiful peace?
Yeah.
Yeah. Melissa and I have, and Lori and some of us here on the Zoom, all inclusive, have known each other for many years, originally back from Santa Monica Zen Center. And I think, Melissa, last week you alluded to when Lori and I came in from the wilds of New Mexico and we were sitting informally at Insight Annex over in Santa Monica. Melissa had this insight of like, we're going to open a Zen center, you know, and it's interesting that you thought that because, of course, that was already in the works, and we just hadn't looped you in. But as we really started formalizing all of this, Melissa was first in and fully in with, well, both feet would be an understatement. I would say like
the whole body.
Yeah, the whole body, spirit, mind, breath, all of it. And so Melissa is identified as one of the founders of Prajna Heart Zen Center. And one of her focuses has always been on what this could be and the Sangha and the community. And she's always had this indomitable, unshakable spirit around, this is going to be great. This is going to be huge. This is going to be amazing. And it's been just so wonderful to have.
I mean, it's just what you need to hear when you're trying to do 6,000 things and push big boulders up hills. You all know that. You do it all the time, too. So thank you.
So that's just by way of a little background on Melissa or Kazumi. She has also done a lot of landmark training, and both the forum, advanced forum, leadership, communications, I don't know what else, but so she's got quite a bit of grounding in some of that technology and methodology as well. Great friend, fellow founder. I'm just going to turn it over to you at this point, Melissa, and let you do your thing.
Awesome. Thank you. That was such a great intro. No, it is, yeah, as Dan said, I have been sitting with Dan and Lori and actually a lot of other faces on this phone for over a decade. And it is true. I am so committed and excited about Prajna Heart, and it was incredible how the moment Dan and Lori walked in the door and I was sitting, it just came in my mind. I'm like, we're starting a Zen center, and look at us now. I mean, I'm so excited by how far we've come, and where we're going. It's just been an incredible journey. So yeah, thank you for the intro. And I want to say welcome back to a few newish faces on here, Karen, Kevin, and Kiri. Is that how we say it, or Karina? Am I pronouncing it right?
Kiri.
Okay, good. Welcome back again. Okay, Kiri, good. Welcome back. Good to see you guys a second time. This is awesome. And then, of course, welcome back to everyone else that we have here on the screen. It's interesting. I think the minute that Dan said, hey, do you want to give a talk on Sangha? There was usually when I'm asked to do a talk, there's like a little resistance, like, what am I going to talk about? Or do I have time for that this week? But when he said that, my immediate answer was like, yes, would love to. Like, it just feels like a perfect thing for me to talk about as a co-founder, and as also I'm the head of membership. That's technically my role. So it's perfectly aligned with what I'm all about. And as I was spending this week, like really thinking and noodling on what Sangha is, I feel like a discussion around Sangha is so perfect during the time of COVID. To me, it feels more relevant than ever right now. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that we're having this talk today. So the way it's going to go is I spent some time looking into Sangha, and where it fits in with the other two treasures, because Sangha is part of the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So I'm going to talk about that for a little bit. And then I'm going to talk a little more about what Sangha means to me personally. And then some of the insights that I had around Sangha just this week. And then at the end, I would like to open it up to the group, because if it's a discussion about Sangha, I feel like everyone should, have something to say. So I'm going to open up for discussion at the very end. All right, so let's start with the three treasures. So Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. I found an incredible podcast, actually, on a podcast episode on the three treasures. And I want to read to you guys some of the information that they said, because I feel like they captured it really well. And especially their part about Sangha, I felt really resonated with me. So the first thing is, for over 25,000 years, in every form of Buddhism, you formally became a Buddhist by stating, I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. So what was interesting to me around that is, number one, I didn't realize that it was every form of Buddhism. For some reason, I thought that was just Zen, but it's all forms of Buddhism, that those three are the three treasures. And the other thing that was interesting is their use of refuge, the word refuge. And I'll get into that a little bit. They explained it pretty well, what they meant by refuge. So let me get into the three different treasures. So Buddha, they said, refuge is not dependent on the historical existence of Shakyamuni Buddha, or about believing that he achieved perfect enlightenment. So you don't have to believe the Buddha existed, and you don't have to believe that he was enlightened necessarily. But refuge is about faith that Buddhahood, or at least some significant level of awakening, is possible. So I thought that was a really good way of describing that one piece. Dharma refers to Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings and to the teachings of his disciples. It's also the right way of living, in quotes, and a deeper truth, an underlying truth or pattern in the universe. So here's the part that I really liked about what they said about Dharma. The Dharma is the truth of interdependence, the benefit of compassion, and the fact that selfishness leads to suffering, even for the one being selfish. That our actions have consequences, visible and invisible. That there are forces at play in the universe much larger than our own individual wills and concerns. That phenomena tend to fall into certain patterns, and we are far from a random collection of elements. So what is great about that description of Dharma is that it is starting to speak to Sangha. It is already starting to speak to this idea that we are all connected, that we are interdependent on each other, and that there is a way of being that works with the community, works with the connectedness, works with no separation. So here's when they get into Sangha. At the most literal level for us in Zen, especially for modern practitioners, the term Sangha refers to the community of people, lay and ordained, who study and practice Buddhism together. The Sangha is the people with whom we share spiritual aspirations and with whom we work to understand and manifest the teachings and practices of Buddhism. With Sangha, you don't have to explain why you spend your vacations in silent meditation retreats, staring at the walls. You don't have to convince fellow Sangha members that lying and cheating is a bad idea. You generally don't have to ask them to value silence. At least you don't have to ask them twice. For the most part, you can count on Sangha members to take responsibility for their own actions and reactions. And then finally, it says, such community creates an environment in which we can relax, in which we see practice modeled, get inspired and challenged to greater aspirations, feel safe enough to explore vulnerability as we engage in the practice deeply. When Sangha doesn't work this way, then we get to learn from our efforts to heal and take care of Sangha. Being a harmonious Sangha doesn't stay that way without some special care and attention. Now, I thought that was such a vivid description of what Sangha is. And a lot of what they're saying in there really, really resonated with me as to why Sangha is the third treasure, and really is a very, very large part of why I practice Zen. You know, anyone can have a meditation practice where you get up and meditate on your own. But I know that I was drawn to Zen Buddhism because I like to be around people who are up to the same stuff. People who are committed to, I think Yoshin used to call it character development, that Zen Buddhism is, you know, becoming a better person through sitting and through koan study and through the practice of sesshin. And so, yeah, for me, it's as important as the philosophy of Zen or the peace I get from meditating. So after I read this or listened to the podcast, I was thinking even more deeply, like, okay, so what is it exactly about Sangha that makes such a difference for me? And it was mentioned in, it was one of the things mentioned in the podcast, and that is, I really know that the Sangha is a place where I can be vulnerable and bring really anything that's happening in my life up for like a discussion. And it's not only with of course, one-on-one interview with Shiro, like that's a great place to talk about anything. But being with the Sangha, especially when we have some free time together, which has gotten a little tricky with COVID because we're kind of off and on Zoom. But even just the moments like when we are at sesshin together, and we have, you know, moments at the end and at the beginning or in the car ride up, you know, whenever we've had a moment to gather during the downtime of our practice, I know that I can talk about, but pretty much anything is open terrain in a Zen environment. And I think the even bigger thing than that is that the Sangha is willing to listen, and landmark, they would say, listen me big. Like, anyone in the Sangha is going to listen to what I have to say, coming from the perspective of just wanting me and everyone else to be the best possible human they could be. And the Sangha is unique in that regard because there's a lot of environments that don't really feel that way for various reasons. You know, there's more conflict or contention, but there is a space that is created when we're all practicing together that allows for true vulnerability and true just believing in each other and sourcing each other. So I want to give, so I was thinking about that. I was like, you know, that's really what Sangha is about for me. It's like a safe place for me to show up, which with whatever's going on, I can talk to any of the people that I want, and they'll give me different thoughts or a different take on, you know, whatever's happening in my life. Wonderful. So I was thinking about that. And then I went to sleep that night, And I woke up in the morning and I was feeling a little bit funky. Um, as we all do on some mornings, right? I was thinking, man, I just started this job that has an office in New York and I can't go to New York and I can't work out the way I used to. And just kind of silly stuff, like stuff that shouldn't even put you in a funky mood. But I was in a funky mood. And that morning, perfect timing, as the universe does a lot, I received a little clip by Sam Harris, who is who Sam Harris is. He's one of my favorites. I don't know if he's purely Zen, but he's definitely is in the world of Eastern thinking and enlightenment and spirituality. And I got the clip from my friend and I listened to it. I would like to play it for you all. It's about 5 minutes. I just want to see if the sound is going to come through correctly. I think it will, but if not, we'll stop it and I'll just summarize.
So Melissa, let me.
Okay, so yeah, it's 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Is everybody hearing Melissa okay and seeing her okay? Her video's a little choppy for me, but the sound is good.
Yeah, usually there should be a when you go to share, there's a little button that says optimize for sound sharing at the bottom. You could just click that.
Great. Okay. Dan, can you give me sharing privileges?
Yes, I can. Let's see, Melissa.
I could turn off my video, but it sounds like.
There you go.
It sounds like it's okay, maybe. Oh, perfect.
Okay. I think it's okay.
All right.
You think it's okay? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, advanced sharing options. Oh. Is it under? Which one is it under, Jeff?
It should be when you click share at the bottom. I think there's advanced options, and then when it comes up on the lower left, there's a optimize for sound. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see it. Perfect.
Sweet.
Yeah. Okay. I think that this. Okay, we'll try this. Okay, so yeah, it's about 5 minutes long. The topic is not Sangha specifically, but I'm going to tie it all back in when it's done. And it's a great story anyway.
I woke up the other day in a truly lousy mood and was immediately hit with several small problems in my inbox, which, magnified by my mood, struck me as minor emergencies. And later that day at lunch with a friend, I began to complain about these problems. And my friend said two things that were extraordinarily wise. And here you'll see the psychological value of being in good company, but also the value of being someone who's committed to seeing his mind and life in a certain way. So after hearing me out, the first thing she said was, well, none of these problems seem that big, right? You can easily deal with these things. So the question is, do you really want to be this stressed out right now? Now, of course, that was a rhetorical question. She knew the answer was no, and she was simply reminding me that it was possible for me to be mindful of how my thoughts and emotions were arising in that moment, like a perpetual motion machine of dissatisfaction. She was reminding me that I could give them space, and that it was possible to achieve real equanimity in the present, whatever these problems were. But of course, if you don't know how to meditate, you can't really do that. You have to find some way to think yourself into a new state of mind. You have to begin solving the problems. Otherwise, you can't get off the ride. But if you can be mindful, you can change your state before you solve your problem or apparent problem, before you think your way through to a place of optimism about the future. So the fact that I wasn't paying close attention to the mechanics of my own mind was my real problem in that moment. I was the problem. What I was doing with my attention was the real proximate cause of my unhappiness. And my unhappiness was what was motivating me in that moment to brood about my problems. But then she addressed my situation on a conceptual level as well, which is often even more useful, because simply reminding someone to be mindful doesn't prevent him from falling back into the same pattern of thinking a minute or an hour later. Finding a new framework in which to think about a problem can. So she said, were you really expecting to have no more problems at some point in your life? You're just going to wake up one morning and none of this would be happening? There'd be nothing on your to-do list? Do you actually want nothing on your to-do list? Life is mostly about solving problems, and you can solve these. So my problem, more than anything else, was that I was treating problems themselves as anomalies. I was tacitly assuming that I should be able to get rid of all my problems and avoid any new ones. Even though this sounds ridiculous, that was implicit to my thinking and to my emotional life, to the way I was meeting each new problem. But of course, I can never get to a place where problems stop appearing, and neither can you. Life is an unending series of complications, so it doesn't make any sense to be surprised by the arrival of the next one. The magnitude of the problem might surprise you, but the fact that new complications in your life are arising, hour by hour, is absolutely to be expected. I mean, very soon, some machine that you're relying on to do your work or to keep you comfortable is going to break. This is guaranteed to happen. You're also going to catch a cold in the not-too-distant future, and your plane will be late, or your luggage will get lost. At some point, you will injure your knee and need to see a doctor for it. It can't be any other way. Really, it can't be any other way. And the expectation that it can, or should, be some other way is a great source of unnecessary suffering. Suffering that actually makes it harder to solve the problems we happen to be faced with. Ironically, this is a problem that you can solve. And you can do that by expecting more problems to arise every day of your life. It's like you're playing a video game. Did you expect that there would be some incredibly boring level of this video game without problems? This is the game we call existence. Problems continually arise. So enjoy them.
So that's the little clip that he just happened to send me the morning where I was waking up thinking of all the problems that I was having. But what struck me when I heard that is, one, I love how the speaker was at dinner with a friend and, going through his problems. And the friend was like, it's a little silly to think, do you not want these problems? Like, the friend kind of like nudges him back into less suffering, kind of, or back on the path, or back onto the Dharma, right? And I was thinking how ironic it was that my friend was actually doing the same for me that morning, because he sent me the little clip, and then I was listening to it and I was like, you know what, that's right. Like, I might as well enjoy my problems, because I'm always just gonna have new ones tomorrow. And that's what it feels like in life, or, things occur that you have to handle. But it really made me see the profound thing that came up for me is that, my friend Andrew is not part of Prajna Heart Zen Center yet. Anyway, I'm working on him, but he's not part of the Zen Center yet. He is a Buddhist practitioner. He does Vipassana retreats. I know him through Landmark. He does a ton of Landmark stuff. He is part of my extended Sangha, right? Like, he's a Sangha member in my life. And as a Sangha member, what he does is he sends me little clips that help me stay on track, right? Help me follow the Dharma, right? And then I was thinking, like, wow, like, all of us actually have extended Sanghas. I mean, we are the curators of the Sanghas of our lives. We choose who are the ones that are going to be in and who are the ones we're going to talk to a lot and who are the ones we're going to talk to a little or not to at all. And it really gave me a new perspective on Sangha and what it means. And on how important it is to have the right Sangha members in your life. You know, or I don't want to say the right, it's not the right ones. I think it's more about how does it look if you consider the people in your life part of your Sangha? Like, how would that, and so then I was thinking about, like, how would that change me if I'm thinking about everyone I come into contact with as part of my Sangha? You know? Like, I'm walking on the street more, you know, underneath my mask, or wave, you know, I might have more compassion for someone who has a different political belief than me if I consider them part of my Sangha, right? I thought it was such a great way for me to hold this idea of no separation. That what if everyone in the world is part of our extended Sangha? One final share I want to give you guys is, so this weekend I am with one of my best friends, Janelle, in Ojai, and we have 3 French bulldogs between the 2 of us, which is madness. It's like a circus show in the best kind of way. And last night we had a socially distanced patio hangout with a couple of her friends that I'd never met before. And going into it, I was like, I don't know these people, and like, are they going to be okay with the dogs, and like, how's it going to go? We ended up having instant relatedness, had such fantastic conversation. The dogs were having an incredible time. We were drinking wine and eating hummus, and it was such a delightful time just to connect with these 2 people that I'd never met before. And again, on the way home in the car, like it just brought me back to this idea of Sangha and how, you know, we really have the ability to be related to any human out there. And the more kind of compassion and even like ownership of the relationship, you know, that we have, or openness, the more opportunity there is to really connect with other humans. And during this time, specifically during the COVID time, when the way we normally hang out is different, I got so clear on how important it is to really keep connecting, even if that looks like jumping on Zoom calls and doing Zazen, you know, multiple times a week. Even if that looks like doing a socially distanced hang with some folks you've never met before. Even if that looks like smiling under your mask at people walking on the street. I think that this is like, Sangha is so powerful during this time. And it's no accident that our Sangha has been growing so much during this time. But like, during the time of a pandemic is really the time to double down on Sangha and extended Sangha and the Sangha of the world, because we need it, and because that's really what's going to get us through all the problems or all the stuff that comes up, is, you know, us being one. So that's it. That's all I have to say. I was talking for a long time. But what I would love to do is I would love to open this up to you guys, about what anything come up or resonate around what I said or what I played, or like what does Sangha mean to you? So yeah, anyone have thoughts?
And you need to unmute yourself if you're going to speak.
No.
Sorry to keep reminding everybody of that. There you go.
Great. It was really, really wonderful to hear a lot of things that I've been thinking. I often wonder when I'm walking down what is the pretty much unpopulated street here in the Arts District. You know, you do recognize people, and sometimes you raise your hand and say hi, even though it's muffled. But really, you know, it's the smile that comes through because people can actually see that you're smiling just because even if they can't see your face, they can see that you're smiling. And because I think there's a whole body thing about smiling and receiving people and giving to people. And it's really important right now. And I also, one of the things that really came up for me and what you were saying was that I was thinking, well, the reason we need others right now is because we don't have the distractions that we normally do. And it's an opportunity to deepen our connections with one another and to deepen our understanding about our own personal growth by sharing with one another. But then I realized that actually, in my life, there were as many distractions as before. So there's a really nice mystery there. Why does it seem actually more important right now? I guess it's because it's what actually could be considered a tough time. And I think many of us have things that come up for us that are really tough. You know, the confinements, you know, their economic pressures are, you know, universal. It's really around the world being felt. And so I think that we have to come together and share and just feel the lives of others so that we can kind of spread out our concerns about ourselves and to the larger world and how we might care for one another. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. I have had a similar experience where suddenly I all of my calendar events were kind of stopped, but then suddenly I'm just as busy as I was before. And I am asking myself, like, what's going on? I'm like obsessed with the pace or something. But so totally get that. And I think that I agree that because this is a tough time in history, you know, that connection is really important. It's just, it's big. It's bigger. And I find that I feel more of just more appreciation when I really connect with people than I have ever before.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I mean, I like this this COVID Sangha deal because then I don't have to drive downtown.
Totally. I kind of like that too.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, it's cool, but anyway. And I just like I really appreciate everything that you said. I definitely I think it's great to have a group of people that's really just committed to being mindful and checking themselves. I really enjoyed the 5-minute thing that you shared, and also like extended Sangha. Like one of my fraternity brothers, but like you know, I say that and it just sounds sort of stupid. I don't know, whatever you think of fraternity brothers. He's a really, really good friend of mine, and we've been through a lot together, and he's like, I consider him a brother, you know? And so he was just in town with his wife. They took a vacation from New Orleans, and just spending time with him, like, I just also recognized kind of my other sanghas in life and how vital and important that is to me. Like, I'm a people person. I love people. And so to be, even my relationship with him in the fraternity, it's like our fraternity, you know, is about, for us anyway, is about higher ideals and like really balancing body, mind, and spirit and being gentlemen and that kind of thing. So, but even my relationship with Christine, you know, I feel like that's also, she's definitely in my Sangha. And I feel like we also keep each other in check, sometimes really well and sometimes not, but in terms of like being mindful about things. So so I just really appreciate everything that you said, and it's really great to be a part of this Sangha as well. Did you want to say something? Oh, now you're on the spot. No. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jeff. And one of the things that was in the podcast that I was listening to talking about Sangha was that even when it's not working, you're also learning. Which it just reminded me of like when we would have sessions, and I'm helping Tenzo and I put the wrong amount of spice into a pot, which happened once, and it was like a big mess, but there's something to be learned when it's not going harmonious too. And so it's all good. It's all great. And it's funny. It's like, I feel really honored by the people who are close to me, who get to be with me through the screw ups, the ones who are with me with all the ups and downs. It's like, that's really right in there, So, yeah, anyway, that's what came to mind. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Hi. From everything you shared, the audio thing was great. Like, such a reminder, like there's always problems. I mean, that's life, right? There's never an end to them. And I tend to like write a list and have this dream of getting to the end and then it's done, right? So that was a good reminder. The thing, I'm not familiar with the terminology, but I think Sangha means community. And so, so Landmark's a big community for me, and it's been critical for me because you touched on like listening big, like being around people that listen to me from who I really am, not my stuff, and how critical that is. And I do find, like, when you talk about extending your community to just strangers or whatever, my tendency, my default is to be very hesitant to do that. I don't have a lot of patience for people that what that listen to me small, that hold back what there is to say. I prefer the challenge of being listened to big, because that's how I grow. And I always, when I'm hesitant to speak to somebody, I realize, oh, that's because I'm listening to them like they're a small person and can't handle what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
And then I go for it, and it always works out. When I'm coming from a place of love, and anyway. But what?
That was great. And then you said anyway.
I always say anyway.
When I'm coming from this beautiful,
just a place of love. Well,
anyway.
I was going to say from the right place, but I didn't want to say that. It's not right, but just from a place of intent, of good intention, of the bigger picture of what's possible. So anyway, so it's just something, I guess what I'm left with is it's something to look at. Like, if I'm with people that don't listen to me like that, how I can be okay with that as well. Like, what is there about me that has me be triggered by that, or not be able to be with that I can grow from and become aware of. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's great, everything that you said, and I totally resonate, because the listening piece of Landmark is such a strong part of their teaching. I think that what I'd like to put in is that I know that, like I was talking about the idea of extended Sangha, and what if the world is our Sangha. I know that the answer is not that we're like best friends with everyone, because I'm like you, I'm actually really proud of the amazing friendships that I have in my life now at age 45. I think it's like the best I've ever had before, because I'm surrounding myself by people that are mindful and into self-development and are really wanting to grow as humans. And I want those people to be the inner circle. And there are people who I don't feel like are on the same path, and they're not going to be in the inner circle, but I can hold them as part of my Sangha. I can have compassion for them, I can love them, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to just talk to anyone about my big stuff. So that's the way that's the way I look at it when I think of extended Sangha. Like, it's the world, but then there's also my inner group of people that I've chosen, that keep me on track most.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Hey, Melissa, I just wanted to jump in. Thank you for your talk. Every time you speak, I always grow a third ear because I know there's going to be something good that comes out of your talk. So thank you. So one of the things that, like, when someone were to ask me, like, who's Melissa? And I'd be like, she's my Sangha sister. I don't know where that term, like, we joke about that, like, you're my Sangha sister. Like, I don't know where that term comes from, but that has always been a really clear definition of this community, like just how I know you and how I know others and how I think Andrea has used that term before. And I just really love it. So I don't know the origins of that, but it certainly does really resonate with me. And I really appreciate the extended Sangha. I have not really thought about that concept. I always think of my tribe, you know, which are like my non-Sangha, like my tribe, my people. But I appreciate you helping me kind of take that circle one step further and thinking about that, especially in this moment. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Sangha sister for sure. Forever. Well, I think John, wanna go.
So great talk. And fellow introduction leader, communication course, all of it. Yeah. So, you know, and I love the language that you bring from that, the listening, you know, the listening of the room. And why I was attracted to the Sangha is there's a listening in the room that's supportive and compassionate and people that are up to something, you know, and I get to show up and bring whoever I'm being, and it's supported and accepted. And whatever it is, you know, whatever I show up is perfect. Sometimes I don't think so, but you know, I love that. And you know, the other thing I draw from that into this is the way I can really relate to somebody is to get into their occurring world. And you know, what I love about that work is it really rooted in a lot of this work. And you know, and I love to talk because, you know, my mind creates problems and then it tries to fix them all the time. And I have this way of being that I'll be okay when I solve all my problems. And then my mind in solving problems creates more problems. And so this is an opportunity to like pause and have my mind work for me. And so I love that podcast. I want to get a link to that when you get a chance. But my question for you is, and I don't want to get in a context that the whole Sangha here doesn't understand, but if you could relate it to how you create possibility with this work, does that make sense? That question?
Mm-hmm. Kind of. No, wait, can you restate it? I don't know if I totally understand.
Well, okay. So possibility in the way of being.
Possibility, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, or possibility way of being. Yeah, you know, so in Landmark, we talk a lot about possibilities, which is essentially it's the context that you're bringing into any situation, right? And so because I've done a lot of that Landmark work and I'm just kind of a positive person in general, it's a way, it's a great way to approach problems, right? You know, for example, COVID happened with our Sangha, and we could have just stopped. You know, we could have thought, oh man, you know, we were going to get a center, and now we don't know when we're going to get a center, and how do you practice without an actual center? Like, we could have come from there, but because we're trained and because, you know, we're really committed to creating something great, instead we're like, well, what can we do? And now we're on fire. Now there's more Zen stuff that I can even keep up with every week, which is, you know, that you've been successful when you've created something that you can't even keep up with anymore. then you've won, right? So I think, like, for me, the possibility, like, it is just like the clip that I shared. It's around always having this kind of meta view of your thinking, you know, such that you can be like, you know what, possibility is out. You know, I'm approaching this from concerns. I'm approaching this from a a place of negativity, no? And just that awareness, even if I can't snap myself out of it immediately, just the awareness gets me one step closer to getting there, no? Because it's like, I'm making this up. I'm making up the way I want to hold everything that's happening. So I don't know, did that address your question? Okay, good. And I do want to clarify one thing, because we've said the word listening a couple times, and it's kind of a unusual landmark word, but the way that you listen someone is the context in which you hold them, right? So you might have a teacher and you listen them big, like you listen your Zen teacher like he knows everything, he's dropping gold. And when you listen people that way, they tend to show up that way. And their occurrence for you definitely shows up that way. So there was a time where I didn't have a high listening of my mom. I felt like she was always nagging me and judging me and stuff like that. And I took a landmark course and I realized I just didn't have a good listening of my mom. And I decided to change my listening to, she is the best mom on the planet. And the minute I changed my listening of her to that, she mom, like, and I really mean it, like, because people can tell the way you're listening them. People can feel the way you're holding them. So my mom could feel that I wasn't upset about anything she said to me anymore. Even if she says something to me that feels judgmental, I hear that as love. She just wants me to be happy, And so the minute I did that, it allowed her to relax and open up and be the best mom in the world. So the listening, the way that the context in which you hold people or a situation, or your problems, is definitive. It kind of decides the way things are going to go. It's a very powerful tool.
So Melissa, I think you did a beautiful job there of talking to possibilities that are opened by this practice. And John, one way I like to think about it, the Zen circle, the Enso, which is complete and empty at the same time. And if you think about the practice as continually emptying that space, or continually diving into the realization that we give things meaning, but they don't necessarily have meaning, right? And if you think about that circle as often being so packed and cemented into place with everything that we think and believe and know, and descriptions of ourselves and descriptions of other, right? That big, beautiful, empty circle is so full that there is no possibility left in the world. And I like to think of our practice as, just taking a eraser in and clearing out a little bit of space, and then a little bit more space, and a little bit more space, and freeing ourselves from those beliefs and thoughts and the mind going over and over and over and over and over. And when you open up some of that space, that's where infinite possibility starts coming through. And the infinite possibility of seeing your mother in a new light and her appearing in a new light. The possibility of a new painting or new music or new poetry. The possibility of discovering a friendship with somebody that you might have thought there was no possibility of that in available to you. So that imagery for me always works. Is the circle full? Is it empty? How firmly cemented into place are those things in the circle of our being? And how do we let some of them go and let some of them drop away? Because to the extent that we do, there's the freedom and there's the possibility of a different, more joyful, more peaceful life. So good question, great answer, Melissa. And I guess I have to add one more little piece about Sangha, because as we're working on that and trying to see our true nature in the emptiness, as we start scrubbing the other things away, as we're washing that bowl out, that can be hugely unsettling, and it is a huge challenge, and it can be a lot of work. And there's where Sangha comes in as well, because we are for each other the big supporting cushion for that work, on which that work happens. And as Melissa said beautifully, we put each other back on the path, but we're also there to catch the falls. And we're also there to hold up the successes, you know, and do the body pass or whatever that's called, you know, where you like celebrate the wins and pass the person along through the crowd. It's a beautiful way to think about Sangha as we do this work of, as Melissa said, character development, of cleaning things up, of being the best humans we can be. I know I need all of you to do that for myself. And that's one way I like to hold Sangha. It's not my talk, so I'll shut up.
No, that was so well said. That's beautifully said. I love it. And I love the Enso, the visual of the Enso and the eraser. Or it's either an eraser or it's like a possibility marker, right? Adding to the circle. No, I'm definitely going to think about that now when I think about letting things go, is creating the space in the middle for possibility to show up. Anyone else? I think we're almost at time. Anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about refuge, thinking about, you know, like refuge from what exactly? You know, I kind of was thinking, you know, take refuge from a storm and a shelter. And it just kind of rang true to me, you know, this, you know, the aspect of being vulnerable, and, you know, coming together and expressing, you know, these underlying discomforts or suffering, you know, that we experience, you know, and you know, kind of letting go of the different walls we put up to defend ourselves, you know, from that, whatever it is exactly. You know, there's lots of ways to take refuge. You know, I can protect myself from, you know, discomfort or suffering by distracting myself or consuming myself in something that doesn't really deal with it, you know. But, you know, through this practice, through meditation, through Sangha, you know, to be vulnerable, you know, you can really experience those things and begin to let them go and, you know, deal with, you know, whatever that fear or whatever the underlying sort of things going on are. And yeah, you know, I think, yep, that's all.
That was great. Very well said, Brandon. Like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely get and love that the Sangha and this practice is a place that you are allowed to experience all this stuff. You know, you're allowed to have it show up. It's a safe place, which is really beautiful.
Curie, Kevin, Karen, does this all sound like foreign language? I hope there's something that makes sense in here.
Oh no, I think it totally. I mean, the words weren't familiar, but the context filled it in, so it all made sense. It was really,
Cool.
really, really lovely to listen to. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us from across the country.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well,
All
Melissa,
right. Well, we're at 11:01, so I think we're good to go. Thanks everyone so much for listening and participating and hearing me talk and adding too, and being part of the Sangha.
great job, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.